I have an avocado tree behind me. Look at how tall it is. It's on the ground, and this is how tall it is. Hello, I'm Jenny Fern. Welcome to my library. I'm a chaotic neutral mechanical engineer who's really into permaculture and wants to talk about books. Today I want to talk all about my fanfic and fanfiction in general because I'm obsessed. I really enjoy my own and I just want to talk about it. You're just a little bit too big, aren't you? I am thinking of doing some more like relaxed, chatty videos in here. Let me know if you like this setup, this arrangement. So I had the idea to do this little video because I wanted to do like a fanfiction Q&A. I posted on my like community tab, hey, like what questions do you have for me? I didn't get any responses. I also found I've been tagged in some like tag videos that I did not know about, but they're like a year old. So sorry if I neglected you. Anyway, I have made my own questions because I just want an excuse to talk about fanfiction, and I was kind of waiting for an excuse, but I have to make my own. Just so you know the structure, generally, I'm doing like an introduction about my general fanfiction experience. Then I'm going to talk about my specific fanfictions that I have and that I've written, answer some questions about each of those. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about crossovers because I've written 2, and then I'm going to answer some questions about real person fiction because I've written 1 of those, and I know that's controversial. And that's basically it. So let's get into it. How did fanfiction first enter my life? So I got into things a little bit unconventionally. I'm 32. I first got into fanfiction at 31. I went through some exploration last year. Basically, I have been pretty deeply considering that I am neurodivergent. Recently started questioning some things about how my brain worked, and I highly suspect that I am autistic, and now I'm kind of suspicious that I might be ADHD, so like autistic and ADHD. I very much believe that I'm neurodivergent though, even though I'm not seeking diagnosis and I'm not going to a doctor because I can't even imagine making an appointment for something like that. I would rather throw up. As a part of this whole exploration, I have basically been allowing myself to be more authentic. Basically, I read a bit about unmasking and I decided to try that. And in trying that, I basically pulled on the threads of my deepest interests, and something that I basically got obsessed with in the like early to mid of last year, so like springtime, I was very obsessed with Apothecary Diaries, and I found that extremely cringy about myself, and I like allowed myself to watch the anime. I allowed myself to watch it like multiple times, and then I started reading the manga and I started reading the light novel, and the light novels I was like, this is fine because I am already totally accepting that I'm like really obsessed with books and reading. I have a whole channel dedicated to it. It started with this pulling of this thread, and then it started to get like even more intense. I had like no waking moment of my life where I wasn't thinking about the Apothecary Diaries, and I'd be like listening to music, and at work sometimes I use a microscope. I'd be like listening to music, looking at stuff under the microscope, and I would just be thinking about how Apothecary Diaries would look paired with this song. So I was in extremely deep in my own brain. It was so much so that I felt like I needed an outlet. I was really ashamed when I was first starting because, I don't know, I had like a really deep issue internally where like even if I was like pretty much accepting that I might be autistic, I still was like, well, but I don't want to be like that. Like, I don't want to be so visibly autistic that I have a fan fiction. So really from like a bad internal, like oppressive place. And it is really strange because even though I felt these things about myself, I really didn't feel this way about other people. So it was just like a very strange thing for me to deal with, which I dealt with quite publicly on this channel. But it took quite a long time to tell anybody in my real life about it. And I was like dreadfully ashamed of it. That probably has more to do with like my upbringing and all that than like my core personality, I guess. Fanfiction first entered my life because it was like an absolute core need for me to have some outlet for just this really critical obsession that I had. So that also kind of answers the next question, what made you decide to write fanfiction? It was really this concept of like being more accepting of this like neurodivergent side of myself, because in the past, if I had something like this going on, I might try to access the media in like different forms. Like I've had a few obsessions while I've been filming. I got really into being PuppyCat, where I did try to read more being PuppyCat. I also got really into prison system stuff. So I watched several prison series. I read a lot of a particular individual's prison memoirs. I also read all of these prison memoirs as well. It was really like learning more about autism and trying to be nice to myself and who I thought I was based on this research that I was doing about autism. So that's really what made me decide to write fanfiction. Did I read fanfiction before writing it? I think I might have read one. Either I started writing it and I read one before I posted, or I read one and then I was like, yeah, no, for sure I can do this. And then I started writing it. I can't remember exactly the order. I read a fanfic like really early on. The first one that I ever read was called Worth of a Life by Julia Crow. You know, I kind of need a break. So let's go have a break together. Oh, here she is. She's on my lap now. You want to look at the camera? Oh, I love her so much. The Worth of a Life by Julia Crow. I read it within like 2 days. Just voracious. And it was Jinmao sick fic. That started it all. And yes, again, my very first experience reading fanfiction was as a 31-year-old adult woman. What was your first experience posting fanfiction like? I also have a video of this experience from last year. It was so fun. It was very overwhelming though. I find that doing anything for the first time is like really very scary. And I didn't know like what kind of faux pas I was gonna commit. I was like so afraid of anybody expecting smut and not getting smut that I like made it extremely clear that it was not smut, in a way that I think is like a little bit overboard, because there are ratings and like there's ways to indicate that it's no smut besides me just being like very explicitly like no smut. But yeah, no, it was so exciting having people read my work for the first time. I talk about this as well in a different video. Can you tell that I'm interested in this topic? I talk a little bit about the idea of fanfiction as a writer is like a really wonderful way to connect with an audience if you're not going really through publication, or even if you are going through publication, that can be such a tediously slow process that fanfiction gives you like audience feedback extremely quickly. I do have something coming out for publication in August. I submitted that so long ago. It will have been over a year when it's published since I you know, wrote it and submitted it. And you know, things can be written for a very long time before they're even submitted. But I did have to go through it like really step by step, and like again, I was so unsure of what everything was. I post on Archive of Our Own, and even like deciding where I was gonna post and stuff, like it felt like so much to me. What surprised you about writing fan fiction? Like how easily it came, how much it just flows right out. I think because my experience with fan fiction comes from such like a critical need for release in my brain, that it's just like opening a little valve and like everything comes jetting out in a way where it's like extremely easy for a while. For a while. Then, like any writing project, there are slower periods and periods where certain scenes are like really challenging for some reason. But I wrote just thousands and thousands of words in a very short period of time. I think within a month I'd written, I don't know, like 20,000 words or something like that, which I know NaNoWriMo is 50,000 words in a month or whatever, but I wrote like an insane amount for me. What surprised you about posting fan fiction? I was really surprised at how many people see work even when it's like so niche. So I will talk a little bit more about what all my fan fictions are, but my main fanfic is an Apothecary Diaries and Tears of the Kingdom crossover. Obviously with a crossover, you limit your audience to people who are fans of both of those things. And not only do they have to be fans of both of those things, but they also have to be interested in reading a crossover of those things. Because I think some people don't like their stuff to touch, you know? Like, even though it was such a niche thing, I got like seen by so many more people than I was expecting, especially within a short period of time. And I'm somebody who posts on YouTube. I'm somebody who is not doing well on YouTube right now for whatever reason. And I know how hard it can be to be seen on the internet. And so there was something very refreshing about how Archive of Our Own functioned in like, it just seems very straightforward in like how to be seen. There's also so many people searching for the things that you're gonna write. Like if you're into a fandom, there are other people who are also into that fandom and they want to read things. They want that release as well as you do. Okay, what has been the most rewarding part of writing fan fiction? So there's like the just absolute need of having some sort of release and having like an escape for just the clutter of thoughts of like a certain fandom, and like it all just like collects in here and it needs to go somewhere at some point. Like it just gets to be like a pressure. So there's like the necessary piece of it. There's also this like really nice communal aspect of it. This like just like a beautiful trade, because nobody's doing it for money, because you can't. you cannot be into this to profit off of it. It is just like really pure in that way, that we're all doing this without money in mind. There aren't a ton of places on the internet where that's possible anymore. Like even if some of those places start with that in mind, they usually end up getting more money focused as time goes on. Why do you think fanfiction is such a fun creative medium? I've found it super creative because I've been like combining things. So I have 2 crossovers, and combining media is just really fun for me. I have been noticing through my blog and through like some analysis of my own videos that something that I really seem to be quite good at and passionate about is crossing various medias and connecting medias together. So like I frequently connect music and books. I am very frequently connecting these seemingly separate aspects of life together in my head. And so I do find that quite creatively fulfilling, being able to do that for other people with the medias that I enjoy. I think I got bit by a mosquito when I took my dog out. Oh, I think I got bit twice. So yeah, there's a question, why do you think some people feel embarrassed about fanfiction? Well, I know this all too well because I was one of those people. I've described this before as like an internalized ableism. I think there's like that external judgment of like I'm different, I'm weird, I feel differently and more strongly about certain things than the average person does. And I do think a lot of that distills itself into people as just like deep shame. The other reason why I personally felt like very weird about being associated with fanfiction is because of the like sexual connotations, the like smut connotations, the like super explicit materials. Explicit to a degree of very specific kinks or just stuff that I'm like super unfamiliar and genuinely uncomfortable with seeing. I'm just such a tame little bug when it comes to like explicit media. So I went to a Miss Bashful concert. Miss Bashful is in the slut pop arena. I love slut pop, but it is one of those things that's hard to talk about in normal society, even though to me it's like so innocent and fun and silly and campy. It is probably aligned with this like smut side of fan fiction, you know, where it's like not really acceptable. And then is it weird to love your own fanfic? I don't think so, because I genuinely have such a fun time like creating these little scenarios, creating these worlds, and like living in them for a little bit and like hanging out. I was reading my own fanfic earlier today and I was having such a fun time. And like obviously I could picture everything super well because I wrote it with like the scenes in mind. But I really got a kick out of it, and like some of the jokes that I'd written, I was like, ah, so fun. I write in the past perfect, I think is what it is, when it's like had thought, whatever, that like had, I use the word had too much. I need to keep that in mind when I'm editing my work, because I was reading through, I was like, this could be edited. That's a hard part of it though, editing your own work, if you're trying to post like relative frequency. So now I'm going to talk about my 3 fanfics and what they are. They have like different aspects to them that I kind of want to talk about. So I have my Apothecary Diaries and Tears of the Kingdom crossover, and Apothecary Abroad, the Hyrule Diaries. I feel like that's just such a good name for exactly what it is. It is a quite long running crossover. So in terms of what I've written, I have just written my 40th chapter. In terms of posting, I have posted, I think, 20 or 21 chapters. Each chapter is a little over 1,000 words. They're pretty short chapters. We follow like several arcs. I also have posted a Hyunlix real person fic This is probably the one that I'm the most conflicted about. I had a similar thing happen where I was just like absolutely critically obsessed with Stray Kids, specifically Hyunlix, however we say it. So it happened. It just happened. I guess I could have kept it to myself, with my main fanfiction consuming being Hyunlix fanfic. I felt like I had to contribute. And then I also have like a series that is not like regularly posted. I still haven't finished my second installment, but that's a Bee and PuppyCat and Apothecary Diaries crossover. So that's more episodic, and it's also like crack fic. I write this crossover as crack treated seriously, which means it's nuts and unhinged, but I'm treating it as seriously as I would any given literature, I suppose. So those are what all of my fics are. Now I'm going to answer questions for all of them. For the Apothecary Diaries and Tears of the Kingdom crossover, what inspired this fic? It absolutely came from this burning desire to write about Apothecary Diaries, because that was the critical obsession. And I really didn't want to write like a court drama or like anything set in that world. I really wanted to be able to be in a different world, and I love Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I love spending time in that world, and I thought it would be so fun. Specifically what I had in mind was like, I was like, wow, Jinchi would be ideal for dressing up like a Gerudo woman and wandering around Gerudo Town. Like, that was the vision, and unfortunately the logistics of the map led me down a different route. That was really like the impetus for that world. I wanted for them to be exploring somewhere, and instead of like making up my own somewhere for them to explore, I decided for it to be Hyrule. It clearly comes across in the fic that it's Apothecary Diaries like first in Hyrule. I'm not super shy about that that's the case, but I do have a lot of readers who are like, give me Zelda, where's Link, where's Zelda? And I'm just like, they're not here yet, because it's not really about them. They do show up, and I actually did have a really fun time writing that as well. I was very nervous to do that, however, because I just did not feel super comfortable with their personalities and like the characters of Hyrule. I have gotten more comfortable as I've gone on making decisions to figure out what those characters are going to be like. Okay, so I did explain the premise. Basically, before, I think it's episode 17 of season 2. Before the end of that episode, Jinchi and Maomao are selected to go on a diplomatic mission to Hyrule. So they sail with Gaoshin to Hyrule, and then they meet Hudson and Pura, and they go to Terrytown, and they start doing diplomacy, and then that diplomacy continues through the different regions of Hyrule. We have gone to Terrytown, then Goron City. From Goron City, then we go to Lookout Landing, and then where I'm at now is on our way to Gerudo Town. So, haven't made it very far because the plot is happening. What was the most fun part to write? I really enjoy the minute interactions between Maomao and Jinchi, and I also love Gaoshin's little interactions. Like, really the beginning of Apothecary Diaries, since I have read the 15 light novels, the very beginning, like the first 3 to 4 to 5 light novels. They're just so sweet and like, I don't know, they're this to me, where I just want to live in those little interactions. So I love having those like very slight, but like as myself, I like blow them up so big. For whatever reason, I think I do have a bit of like a fascination with like minute interactions and like how much they say. So because I think I know these characters, I'm like, oh, this means a lot. And I think people who read it also pick up on those things. So I think that's the most fun part to write. The most challenging thing for me to write was basically both of them having a difficult conversation, and like I don't want to give any spoilers away, but they both can be very avoidant of certain things. And so making two people who are absolutely avoiding a certain topic talk about that when they both would much rather not, but also it needs to happen. That was so hard. Because they're so avoidant so much of the time, like that's the mode that I've read so much and seen so much. It was really hard to like make up what it's like for them to have to like sit down and talk about things. How much research went into writing it? Luckily, there is already a map that I can walk around and I can look at all of the scenery. Really, that was like the best decision that I made, was to set this in Hyrule, where I can literally walk the path, encounter things that could be plot points, literally look at the scenery and be able to write that scenery. That has been an excellent decision because it's really made it much, much easier to research. For some of the research, I have read older Chinese works to get fun little ideas. So I have read like, I don't know, just older Chinese literature, little short stories and stuff like that. Having like an idea for something and trying to look up any real historical Chinese basis for that thing. Like in the chapter that I most recently posted, there are cookies that Maomao makes with cinnamon. And instead of her making snickerdoodles, which is what I was initially going to do, I looked up like historical Chinese cookies. And there are these like milfour, I don't know how to say it, but like the 1,000 layer type of cookie where it's like, you know, layer, hold, roll, fold, roll, fold, those kinds of cookies. Some of those cookies were found in extremely good shape in like a cave. And they're from like, I don't know, 1080 or something like that. So I used that as inspiration. How did you approach writing the characters? I really feel, for whatever reason, that I have a grip of Maomao and Jinshi. So I felt relatively confident writing those characters, except for like some moments where I've read back now after getting some comments and I like kind of question if things would exactly go the way that I thought that they would. And I still feel fairly confident with like what I'd known, what I'd read, since there's so much material available for this story, these characters in general. There's like so much to gather these little clues from. I feel like I got a pretty good sense of the characters and kind of why they act the way they act. Now for the Zelda characters, they just have so little dimension in the games that I'm familiar with that that's been much more challenging. And so I have to infer a lot more based off of basically their experiences. But like trying to write a full-fledged character, I feel like Hudson and Ronson, there's not like a ton of material there to like really get a sense of who they are. So there've been a few characters that I kind of play around more with. Like Pura, I kind of flesh her out a bit more and definitely made some decisions on like how she would act based off of my own preference, and also kind of drawing parallels from the Apothecary Diaries of like who she fits. So I got like a bit of a Gyokyu vibe from her in like how she would view Maomao and Jinshi's relationship. Like that's kind of where I was drawing that from. And then just kind of like her mischievousness. So I made some creative decisions on that front. Also with characters like Zelda, I've just felt so much responsibility to try to do that properly. So I did watch kind of a lot of videos on her. And then Link as well, he is a stand-in for the player in a lot of ways. And he's so quiet. He's becoming more of a character now that I've spent more time with him. I spent quite a lot of time with Yunobo and just really thinking through like his parallels with Jinshi, and like they are quite similar in like Yunobo doesn't want to be a champion, like he doesn't want to battle. He wants like a peaceful mining life. And I feel like such a similar vibe with Jinshi, where he doesn't want this destiny of, you know, being in line for the throne. He wants to choose his own path. I feel like I've broken into some of those characters by looking at them through more of the Apothecary Diaries lens, where I'm much more comfortable. What surprised me while writing it? I've been somebody who has written my own work, like my own characters, my own people. And I have definitely found it challenging to make characters that have enough going on that feel like their own people. And so I really enjoyed inhabiting these characters who already were people that I felt like had been fleshed out. I really enjoyed working with that, especially Maomao, because I feel like I connected so much with her when I was watching and reading the works. I just found it very comfortable writing with that perspective. So yeah, I guess that was surprising. Just the contrast of like how much I'd struggled with creating my own characters. I think I could do it okay now, but definitely when I was younger and trying to write novels, I had a really, really hard time because a lot of what I was interested in wasn't actually the characters. And now I like can see how to make a character that I actually am really interested in. What part of the fic are you most proud of? I am writing little mysteries, and I have been pretty happy with like my ability to do that, where I've never done that before. Like I've never written little mysteries before, and I feel like I've done okay with that. There's like a pretty large breadth of exposure of like types of writing, types of plot, interactions. Like there's action scenes. There's quite a lot of like quiet moments, little domestic moments, which I enjoy so much. But then like these more like heroic pieces, these like diplomatic pieces, like I've definitely been exposing myself to a whole bunch of different writing challenges. So I think I'm pretty proud of that. Also posting consistently, even though I haven't been writing consistently, posting consistently has been pretty important for me. So let's do the Bee and PuppyCat and Apothecary Diaries crossover. What inspired this? Like I mentioned, I had a bit of an obsession with Bee and PuppyCat, and I rewatched like the first episode just for like comfort, the Netflix series. That's specifically what I'm obsessed with. And even though it's so short and like it's such a little thing to like grab onto, I feel like most of the other things that I really grab onto have like a whole lot of media associated with them. But this is such like a bite-sized little mysterious place to be that I just love spending time in. I knew that I wanted to explore that world, but I didn't know how. And so I kind of was thinking, oh, I could do like Stardew Valley crossover with Bee and PuppyCat or something like that. But then, you know, I have an obsession, you know, and there are aspects of Bee's character that I feel like just the Bee and Deckard relationship, I really was seeing, and I see this everywhere because I'm obsessed, but I was seeing this like Maomao Jinchi relationship when I was rewatching it. And so I was like, oh, wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't it be so fun to put them in their shoes? So it's definitely a unique type of crossover, because I'm missing like some of the most beloved characters of Bee and PuppyCat. This one is called Maomao and Maocat, the Stray Temp Mysteries. Stray Cat Mysteries. So I did just explain a little bit of the premise. The premise is basically that it very much mirrors the structure and the world of Bee and PuppyCat. We're on the island that Bee and PuppyCat is on. We are in like the cat cafe, we're in the apartment, and we have like some of the surrounding characters, but basically Maomao and Jinchi have crashed. They've like shipwrecked and they washed up on shore on the island, and they don't have memories of their former life, but they've like started this fresh life on the island, and it is in the shoes where Bee is basically replaced by Maomao and Deckard is replaced by Jinchi. But they have like similar roles. They're not exactly the same because they're just not the same people, but that's kind of the premise. And then they do have Maomao the cat standing in for PuppyCat, and Maomao the cat can transport them to Temp space where they solve Temp mysteries. So that's why I'm saying it's crack treated seriously. What was the most fun part to write? I really enjoy the environment that's kind of wacky in Bee and PuppyCat. And so there's the scene very, very beginning of the first installment of this little series thing where Maomao sees a trail of rosehip jelly, and she's like following this trail, and just like I could really see this like beautiful rose colored jelly, little splotches of it, silly little ants, and like little like paw print shaped trail leading off, and it's just like such a visceral visual experience for me. What was the most challenging part? With having Temp mysteries, I also have to solve mysteries. So I have to make a mystery and then I have to resolve that. And that's pretty difficult to do in a short period of time for me, because you have to make something that's challenging enough, but not so challenging that your characters can't solve it. So I had to do quite a lot of research to figure out how solvable my problem was, and like what I needed to seed within the story in order for them to be able to solve it. Basically they end up, it's kind of like The Wizard of Oz inspired, where they end up on this black and white planet because it's inspired by the color blind episode of Apothecary Diaries, where they have like the rooms that they have to choose, and the like secret to choosing the correct room is you have to look at it as if you're a colorblind person. This is like the opposite, where they're dropped onto a black and white world and they have to figure out what colors things are without being able to see what color anything is, which was such a fun thing to work on. Really fun puzzle that I set before myself. I really do have a fun time being able to like take the idea from one media and like convert it into what it would look like in a different media. That has been very fun for me. It's like a really fun creative problem. How much research went into writing it? So researching like being PuppyCat has been quite difficult because the world is small. Doesn't have like a ton of detail. Like the island is called the island. The cat cafe I'm pretty sure is called Cat Cafe. Trying to figure out all of the things that I would really want, like what is the layout of the island, what do certain things look like that I maybe not seeing all the time, so I have to like go back in and look at the episodes and like look at what things look like. I'm trying to figure out what like people would say with so little media around it. That's like most of the research. That, and like again for this mystery I had to look into like how color perception works and like how colors interact with like filters and like how colors interact with heat and like all of these sorts of things that I was considering how Maomao would try to solve this problem. How did you approach writing the characters? So again, I mentioned I feel like I have a pretty good grip on Maomao and Jinxia's characters. I'm happy and comfortable with what I have decided for them. So whether or not it's accurate to what like other people think, like at least I'm comfortable with them. Oh, I don't know what I just hit. And everybody around them is a little bit more challenging. Like, oh my gosh, I feel like with Temp I was like really double guessing how Temp should speak, how to describe that whole interaction. Oh, I should also say that I did kind of lean more into the parallels between Bee and Maomao. So like Maomao acts more Bee-like and Jinxia acts more Deckard-like in this fic. What part of the fic are you most proud of? Basically the mystery and resolving it in a way that I was like scientifically happy with. So now it's 9 o'clock. It's time for me to feed the animals and also get ready to go to bed. So I get up quite early in the morning, so I need to start wrapping it up. I will continue this tomorrow. You know, I had such a fun time yesterday talking to you all about fanfiction that I was like riding this high when I went to bed, and I like stayed up late. So anyway, hello, it is the following day and I'm here to continue my fanfiction talk. Haven't talked about the Hyunlix fanfic yet. Let's just get into it. What inspired this fic? So, very similar instance, very similar behavior for Apothecary Diaries. Basically the same thing happened with me and Stray Kids, a K-pop boy group. At no time previously was I even remotely interested in K-pop. I got like recommended videos about Blackpink. I got recommended videos about Cat's Eye, and that was pretty much the extent. Then I started getting recommended these videos of Felix and fell deep into a rabbit hole about stray kids. That's how it started, and just got super obsessed, critically obsessed, like I mentioned before. Then they came out with the song In the Dark with DJ Snake. I got so critically obsessed with that song. Couldn't stop thinking about it. Couldn't stop picturing the scenes of that song. I had already fallen into Hyunlix edits. Also, can somebody please tell me how I'm supposed to pronounce it? Should I look it up? Let me look it up. Because Hyunlix sounds better. What the fuck? Sorry, I was just trying to figure out how to pronounce Hyunlix. If it's Hyunlix or Hyunlix, like what the people say. And I got onto this Threads post. I don't have Threads, but it's it's like post not available, but then it says it's a lingual frenulum. Both Felix and Hyunjin have pronounced ones when they flip their tongues back, like under the tongue. Anyway, I'm like, now I feel like I would like to see what we're talking about. But that's besides the point. Anyway, just got super into Hyunlix because those edits, those ship edits, are just extremely satisfying. I don't know what it is. Can't rationalize it. And so anyway, I was into that ship. I'm so conflicted about this because I know that that ship has caused them some difficulties in their life. So anyway, the short answer is that fanfic was inspired by my obsession with Stray Kids, the existence of the Hyunlix ship and my obsession with that, and the DJ Snake song In the Dark. In addition, I did like look into more of like Hyunlix specific stuff. So like their videos together, their two kids' room, like the first one and the second one. What is the premise? The premise is really inspired by the song In the Dark. It really follows like a bit of the storyline of the lyrics. The concept really being tied into Locked Into Your Frequency. Let me look up the lyrics for In the Dark by DJ Snake and Stray Kids. In the parking lot in your homie's drop top, just a couple blocks from where we grew up, all those summer nights, we were riding blind, going way too fast. Down the boulevard with the windows wound down, I went in the car and we're getting real loud. All those stubborn nights with some bad advice, we were almost right. Not the K-pop guys, it's just these guys existing outside of K-pop, outside of the band. The idea being that Felix and Bangchan lived in Korea together, that they moved from Sydney to Korea. They lived there for like a year and then Felix moved back. And Bangchan's visiting, and he brought with him Hyunjin and Han. And so they're like hanging out together. They meet at his car and they take it around town, basically, is the idea. They're like going fast and stubborn nights. So it's nighttime, it's in Sydney. They're being a little bit reckless. So they're drinking, not drinking and driving, but just like partying and hanging out with each other. The radio still works, Locked Into Your Frequency, and this still hurts. I don't want to live another day without you in the dark. Tried to ride alone, but I had no clue. I was hopeless. Long drives don't feel the same without you in the dark. Green lights telling me to go and my GPS was broken. Then there are scenes that are in the present day, and it's kind of like vignettes, but in the present day, Hyunjin is back in Seoul. Felix is still in Sydney. They're just kind of like sad and thinking about each other, kind of considering this like missed opportunity that they had when they were hanging out that summer night so long ago. So then really they're listening to music in their separate present day lives, and it's kind of like flashing back to like what they were doing in the past when they first met. There's this like magical realism moment where they are tuned into the same song, and so across the ocean their like radios connect and they are able to hear each other and talk to each other. This little connection moment. It's definitely open for interpretation, just like I feel like how they act in like interviews and videos and like live streams and stuff together. Very much up for interpretation if it's like a romantic kind of thing or if it's a friendship kind of thing. But in my heart and soul, it's a relationship thing, obviously. Definitely shipping these fictional versions of them. I really felt like it was quite like an artsy interpretation. I got like a little bit literary fiction on this. What was the most fun part to write? Oh, I just enjoyed writing this so much. Yeah, just these like little like magical vignettes of life and like how special they were. Can't pick. It was extremely fun to write. What was the most challenging part? The settings are real places that I have not been to. So trying to get some sort of logistical sense of how these locations make sense, where things could be. That was definitely challenging. It was also extremely challenging for me to write these people in a way that I thought actually made sense, because even if I've seen them quite a lot in videos, that is just so different from an actual person. I really felt extremely unconfident writing these as characters, especially Felix. When I was writing this, I'm like, wow, I really don't know how this person thinks. How much research went into writing it? So much. So much research. The locations, Sydney and Seoul, no idea. I really wanted this like under the freeway overpass vibe from Hyunjin's So Good music video. Really wanted that kind of energy and a little bit of like a forlornness as well. So I was trying to find these locations in Sydney and in Seoul that had that vibe. I tried to find the location in Seoul. You don't know how many hours I spent on Google Maps on this one particular road, like cruising along trying to figure out if I could see the location where they shot that music video. Yeah, so that was a lot of research, and then also watching live streams, trying to figure out these guys, really. Again, watching those Two Kids rooms. And I got like a very specific idea from the first Two Kids room of a scene where they buy cologne together. And then also this one particular live stream where they share a lot of music recommendations and they talk a lot about music, like Hyunjin talks about The Great Gatsby, so I put a lot of like Great Gatsby references, a lot of the music that they shared. I made a playlist for myself based off of this live stream, and I still feel like I didn't nail it. How did you approach writing the characters? This was hard. I made some decisions though that I'm quite proud of, where I did decide to use names that I think they would be using. Felix is Felix. He does get called Yongbok by Hyunjin at some point. Bongchan is Chris in this. Han is Jisung. I tried to make it where it was like more realistic to like them not as entertainers, you know? I still feel this way, that I didn't really know the other members very well, because almost everything that I watch has like a Hyunlix like lens on it. There was a scene that I decided to put in for Han where they're at like a fish market and he's like chasing around a stray cat, and that was like my little nod to Lino. Han's definitely like the most underwritten character in this. I don't really feel like I understand him very well at all. What part of the fic are you most proud of? The like ambiance that was created with this. Like one of the comments, I think I might have gotten 2 comments, either 2 or just 1, that was like, it's so like soft and like kind of ambiguous, and I'm really happy that I got these like soft vignette, whimsical is not really the right word, but just like these like floating magical story elements. I'm very happy with that. Now I'm gonna answer some questions about crossovers. Why do you enjoy crossover fanfiction? I just think that way already. Even the Stray Kids one is really like linking this song with like a story format, like really putting a whole world to these song lyrics. So I feel like naturally I'm connecting media quite a lot in my brain. I just find that extremely entertaining for myself in my own head. It's like entertaining and it makes sense to me. I do think it limits my reach for fanfic because it is like specific and weird. I think I would have a harder time trying to write a piece of fiction about a piece of fiction if I didn't change anything about it. I think that would be very hard for me to try to feel like accurate, and I think I would just get hung up on stuff, but I'm not ruling it out. I might do it in the future. What makes a crossover work well? I don't know if I've even read one. I saw one crossover, because sometimes I like actually do really want a crossover. Like I really wanted to read an Apothecary Diaries crossover with Bee and PuppyCat. I'm pretty sure I looked that up. I feel like it might have been like Stray Kids and Apothecary Diaries, which is another thing that I'm really considering. I'm really considering that because I feel like it would work really well. I know what I enjoy about the crossovers that I make, but reading them, I've just have not done that. I think if it makes sense in your head and there's enough people who would enjoy both, that it might make sense to other people too. What is the hardest part of writing a crossover? Again, I've found other, like, not just a not crossover more difficult than a crossover, so I don't know. Maybe it's just, like, trying to evaluate what makes sense in what world. Like, I had a hard time trying to incorporate Zonai devices into, like, Maomao's understanding of the world, where I was like, I don't really know how to explain this through her observational powers of what's going on. So like, I feel like there's a lot more of those instances where you'll have like moments where you don't know how they're gonna react because it's never happened in the original media. How do you decide how two worlds interact? So I've been deciding this in a way that just feels natural, like my decision to take out Bee, Deckard, and PuppyCat from the Bee and PuppyCat world and just like plug in Maomao and Jinshi and Mao the cat. That decision was very like, it just felt right, and I was actually like really considering that this fanfiction might be only for me because I thought people would probably be a little disappointed that their characters, their favorite characters, like who wouldn't want Bee and Deckard and PuppyCat to be in a fan fiction that's supposed to be about Bee and PuppyCat. It ended up going just fine. People enjoyed it regardless. So I think just like being upfront about how it's crossing over is important. Similarly, in my Apothecary Diaries and Tears of the Kingdom, I tried to be quite upfront that it's like they're visiting Hyrule and we're following that party going around Hyrule. So it's the world of Tears of the Kingdom. It's not necessarily like the storyline of Tears of the Kingdom. Guys, can I be absolutely so real right now? My SD card was full, so I had to take a break. In that break, I watched the Lover music video, the new song by Hyunjin. There is something about Hyunjin's songs, the songs that he writes, that like really gets me. I've honestly just been obsessed with this new song. So I was listening to it again and watching the music video, and I was like, man, yeah, there really is something that is so Twin Peaks-esque about this music video, especially the last season where they like are so much older and it's like partly in Las Vegas. A very weird season. I just see visually Twin Peaks in this music video. I have thought for a while now that Long For You is so Twin Peaks reminiscent for like the musical quality, and then this new music video visually has so much in common with Twin Peaks. And then I was just like, oh my god, like a Hyunjin Twin Peaks fanfic. Fucking Felix in a fucking plastic bag, dude. This is what I'm saying. This is how my brain works with crossovers. I think I was in the middle of saying, how do you decide how two worlds interact? And I was like talking about how I really think it's important to like explain how your worlds are interacting in like the description of your fanfic so that people know what to expect. Because even though I did explain like this is following Maomao and Jinshi and Gaoshin as they travel through Hyrule, a lot of people were like, is Zelda gonna be here? Like, please? Are Link and Zelda gonna be here? Totally understand that. They show up eventually, so I was able to tell them, you know, like, it's gonna be a while, but they do show up. But I feel like being upfront with how the worlds are working together is like the most important part of them working together. I think I'm gonna like put together some mood boards or something, because just the visual story that I'm receiving right now because of the Twin Peaks and Hyunjin thing. I don't even know what the plot is, but it's something, because there's something there. Now I'm gonna talk about real person fiction a little bit, because I feel like it's something very controversial, and it is something that I like basically considered not doing my Hyunlix fic, and also like even if I was gonna write it, considered not putting it out there because of my own conflict with this concept. So I want to talk a little bit about my feelings about it. So what made me curious about writing real person fiction? It was the pure need to get Hyunlix out of my brain, to get In the Dark out of my brain, where they were just cohabitating. I had to kick them out so that I could like sleep for the night, you know? That's what made me do it. Now, how did it feel different from writing fictional characters? I definitely felt like a little concerned about making things too realistic, which is, it's interesting because I really enjoy Hyunlix fanfics that are on the realistic side. That is the fanfiction that I do actually consume. Stray Kids fanfic that feels more aligned with what could actually be possible. I have no excuse. I just really enjoy it. It definitely does feel different writing a real person rather than a character, because you're still writing a character. It's just like the character of how that real person is presented in media. I would have a harder time doing this with somebody who maybe isn't so like media centered. You just get a sense, like, because they do those SKZ codes where like they are playing characters, like they are acting out a scene, like they're in a boardroom or they're a family, whatever the like plot line of that show is going to be. They do like play a character. They have like this amped up personality that is present. So like you can get like a bit of a sense of like a more realistic personality in like some of their like behind the scenes kind of videos where they're just kind of like basically at work. They're just like hanging out at work. I just feel like we're all picking up on the character that's represented, and it really, really is not the real person. Like, obviously, we do not know these people. So I had considered reading F1 fanfic because I love F1. F1 is like one of my favorite things to spend my time doing when the season is happening. I love spending my weekends watching F1. And I know that the fanfics are really prolific for F1. For whatever reason, that's like a very, very popular pairing up the drivers and stuff. I don't understand that at all because I watched the race, and in the race, I'm like, these are drivers. Like, I don't really even think of them as like having like a character. that they're embodying. I don't watch a ton of like interviews and stuff, so maybe that's part of it. But I like can't even imagine turning what I consume of F1 into like a distilled character version of that person. Were you nervous about writing it or posting it? Yes, I very much was. What makes me feel a little bit better is it's just a little drop. It's a little drop in the ocean of content associated with these people. If it was like a much, much, much smaller, weirder, nicher fandom, and I was like one of like 3 contributors to like writing fanfic about real people, I'd feel so much more conflicted about it because it's huge and like these like characters are like pretty much out of the real people's control. Like they're in the world now and there's all of these people running with all of these different storylines. Having just one more little thing out in the world feels a lot less detrimental. Would I write real person fic again? I really definitely would consider writing more Stray Kids fics because I love them. because I'm obsessed. Really considering working on this one that I just talked about. So I realized I didn't quite explain all of my feelings. Well, I'm not gonna explain all of my feelings, but some more of my feelings about the real person fiction. You can absolutely tell me that this opinion doesn't make sense. I kind of think that when people become public figures in like a very deliberate sense, for example, an idol, they are fully aware that they will be public figures. Honestly, it's kind of horrifying to think of like young people making this decision to like become an idol and then like getting all of this training to become idols when they're so young. Like I find that a little bit concerning, but also outside of like K-pop, in like the US music scene, you have similar troubling instances of extremely young people learning how to become pop stars and becoming pop stars at a very young age without really fully understanding what they're signing up for, even if it is something that they really want. I feel like all of that is pretty messy, and as much as I fucking love Britney Spears, it's very troubling how young she was when she started. All I was here to hop in and say is public figures have an element of like reachability from the public. There is a public persona that is critiquable and up for discussion. So I feel like although there may be some weirdness with real person fiction, especially if we're going towards like graphic, explicit scenes, I feel like I wouldn't be super comfortable with that. The existence of like fan arts, fanfic on that public persona, feel like it is a part of the culture. It's a part of what it is to be a public figure and to be famous in that way. You give up that part of yourself to the public. That's honestly horrifying. Like that is scary. Like I do understand like the fear of being so famous. I'm not writing about like random people. They are public figures and they're extremely public. Like they are very, very knowingly public figures. Like I'm thinking like there are people who become extremely well-known public figures like Sully, the pilot. That is just a guy, right, who became a public figure. But when you're an idol, your whole job is being a public figure. Okay, now I'm gonna compare the 3 of them and talk about them like all together. So which one was the hardest to write? I feel like they were all challenging in different ways, and yet I feel like all of them have been so fun. Like it was all fully worth it. And my Apothecary Diaries and Tears of the Kingdom is really long, and challenging in certain ways of just like how long it is and like sustaining that momentum. For the Bee and PuppyCat one, like actually solving the problem and like fitting these characters into like this entirely different world, that was challenging in its own way. For the Hyunlix one, the like character and research, that was challenging. The more lyrical writing was a bit challenging. All of them were challenging in different ways, and I don't know if there's one that's really truly harder than the others. Which was the most fun? Again, I had a wonderful time with all of them. The one that has like the most lasting fun and that I also have been enjoying reading is my Apothecary Diaries and Tears of the Kingdom fiction. I'm really proud of that one because it's like a feat. I feel like it's like its own thing now. It has like a heartbeat. I feel like I could enjoy reading this one for like years to come just because there's so much of it. And then also like I'm still writing it. So every so often when I feel that inspiration for this work, I get like a whole new burst of like excitement and fun and enjoyment of writing with these characters in this world that I love so much. Which required the most research. I really feel like the Hyunlix one required the most research because I had to research almost everything because I was uncomfortable with the characters, with those people, those real people that exist, and like trying to do things that were aligned with them. And then also the environments. I just answered this one. Which one am I most proud of? I'm most proud of the Apothecary Diaries and Tears of the Kingdom one because it's just such a beast. So much character work. There's so much plot. It's genuinely fun to read. But I'm also proud of the Hyunlix one because of like, again, I feel like the writing is really tasty. And the Bee and PuppyCat one is just so fun. Like it's genuinely just like a blast. So I don't know. I am proud of all of them. Which one feels like my most natural writing style? I think that's going to be the Apothecary Diaries and Tears of the Kingdom one because I feel like generally I'm quite sparse and like matter of fact. And I feel like that really suits Maomao's voice and also like very reserved and unexplained character interactions. I really want readers to be doing that work. Okay, and the final question, has writing fanfiction changed how you think about storytelling? I guess I would be interested in seeing how my own writing changes if I work on my own stories again, because I feel like it's been so important to me to try to understand these characters that already exist or these people that already exist before writing what they're doing. And I feel like I always struggled with characters before where I was really like learning about the character as I was writing and I didn't really know them until after I wrote a first draft. And then maybe even then I still wouldn't really know them. I'm like, I don't know what this person's doing. I think a lot of that had to do with myself and how like unformed I was, because I mentioned this a little bit before when I was talking about unmasking on this channel, not in this video. I think I had a bit of a hard time with like characters directing their own actions because I had a hard time relating to other people deciding for themselves what they were doing. I feel like I really went along with things quite a lot, and I think that had to do with masking. And now I feel quite a bit more in control of myself and less influenced by the desires of other people, of what they want me to do, of me doing things because that seems like the expectation. I'm less interested in doing that. And so I think I would have an easier time writing characters with their own motivations just because I feel like my own character with my own motivations now. I also think there's got to be an influence from just writing characters that are already established, kind of wanting to have that establishment before I write my own work. And also that writing can be so incredibly fun, so like life-giving and not work. Because none of this is work, right? Like all of this is play, all of this is fun, none of this is for money or for profit. It's all just for the love of writing, which I think on like AuthorTube, that isn't a thing. Like, especially when I was watching AuthorTube in like 2016 or 2015, whatever, it was really like writing is a business and you gotta treat it like a job, which I was never gonna be a professional writer. Like, I have a profession. I'm an engineer. Like, I'm not gonna suddenly be an author. Like, that's not in the cards for me. But I love writing and I love telling stories and sharing stories. And so this has been just such a fun way for me to feel like accomplished in that hobby without pursuing anything professionally. It's just been super fulfilling. And I'm so happy that you've been here with me as I just talk about fanfic for like hours. It's genuinely been a joy and a pleasure. And thank you for stopping by my library. I loved having you here. Okay, here's my task for all of you. If you recently read a fanfic, if you have a fanfic that you love, please just either tell me about it, or if you don't want that pressure, drop an emoji that reflects how you felt about it, what the content was, anything. Just an emoji that reflects that fanfic. Would love to see those. If you haven't read a fanfic recently, maybe just how's your week going? How are you feeling? Love to hear about your week through your emojis. I hope you had a good time. If you did, please consider sharing this with a friend who you think would also enjoy it. Consider liking and subscribing, and I will be back again soon.